joining us now, as he does through the football season, and now one final time through the football season, is the great Mike Mayock of Sumer Sports, sumersports.com. Hey, Mike, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. How you guys doing?
What's up, brother?
Well, we were hoping it would be under better circumstances, but no one better to figure out what happened and what might happen than you. I asked Sheil Kapati this about an hour ago, and I think it would be a good question for you as well. Eagles made a decision to move on from Kevin Patullo, and they're looking for an offensive coordinator. Is it possible, and Philly feels more chaotic, of course, we are responsible some for that, than many other cities. Is it possible that what happened with the Eagles this year is just as simple as there was an offensive line that played 21 games last year, that ran the ball more than any other team in the league, and a running back that did so, and because of that, they were either injured or worn down this year, and a team based around running couldn't run the ball, and that's about it, and that everything just stemmed from that, and that this doesn't seem as bad as maybe it was?
I just think there's a lot more to it than that.
Okay.
And at its root, okay, when Howie and Nick sit down after the season, after a crushing loss, in a game they should have won, when they sit down and look back and are honest with themselves, I think the first thing they have to agree upon is the offense underperformed. And you've got to take a step back and say why. What are the reasons? And ironically, I thought the last drive in the 49ers game kind of underscored everything. I mean, that last drive you had on 3rd and 5, your all-pro wideout drop a ball. Then on 3rd and 11, you had your Super Bowl quarterback throw a ball high to an open Devontae Smith. And then on the last play on 4th and 11, the offensive coordinator makes a call that I still don't understand. And I'm not trying to kill any of them, but what I am trying to say is that I think it's a combination of a lot of things. Execution was one of them on the players' behalf, and all the players have to kind of take a step back and look at themselves also. But I think there has to be an accountability for the entire offense and where it ended up, and that was the offensive coordinator. That's why that had to happen. And to say that the O-line was beat up and they couldn't run the ball, I think is just kind of an oversimplified version. Okay,
yeah, that makes sense. You mentioned Jalen, and I think, one thing that was clear this year, just when you look at the numbers and you could feel it when you were watching, is that he did not run the ball as much as he has previously. Looking forward, if that is who he is as a quarterback, if it's a run of 4 or 5 times a game rather than 9 or 10 times a game, what is the model for him as a quarterback moving forward if that is the new normal from a running perspective?
Well, I think the model is an intelligent version of it doesn't have to be 4 or 5 times a game. And if you're going to beat the Raiders 31-0, it should be 0 times a game. But what it has to be is you've got to take advantage of something he does extremely well, and you've got to do it only in situations where you need it, where it matters, on 3rd down, on 4th down, late in the game, key drives, extending them. And I think that's why a play caller is so important, because on the one hand, you're judging how often you should expose your Super Bowl winning quarterback, and on the other hand, understanding that at times he's going to have to go get it for you. So I'm not sure if there's one model of a quarterback in the league that you just want to drop your hat on and says he needs to be like Lamar Jackson, because I don't think he has to run it like Lamar, or he has to be like the guy in Buffalo, because the guy in Buffalo can put the cape on and do different things. They're different quarterbacks. So I'm not sure there's one model, but I think the offensive coordinator and the play caller helps dictate how that's going to look.
Well, that leads me right into my question, Mike. Which one of these coordinators, let's start with the top ones, guys that are also head coaching candidates but may not get the head coaching job, like a Stefanski, a Mike McDaniel, or even a Brian Dable. Are there any of these sort of coaches that you think are better or most compatible with the Eagles personnel and what they have on the offense? Is there a coach that one of these guys you would think would work well with what the Eagles have?
I'm a big Stefanski fan, and I've known him personally and professionally since he was working for the Eagles and before that. And just to give you guys an example, and I think this will help answer it a little bit. Mm-hmm. I did the Jacksonville-Buffalo game last week, and I was on the field before the game with a bunch of the Jacksonville coaches, et cetera, and asking them about the connection between Liam Cohen and Trevor Lawrence, and going from, 3 wins to 3 losses or whatever it was, mm-hmm. which is unbelievable, right?
Yep.
And their point was that there's Liam, and I don't know Liam Cohen. Their point was Liam Cohen's got an edge about him on top of all the schematic stuff that appealed to the quarterback, and it took him a while. He changed which foot was up. Trevor Lawrence in the gun. Trevor Lawrence had 1 foot up since grade school, and he made him do it the other way for the timing of the offense. And Trevor didn't want to do it, and they fought it. And it ultimately ended up working out the right way. And it was no different than in Chicago with the new play caller, Ben Johnson, and Caleb Williams, who now looks like a completely different guy. And I'm not trying to say that Jalen needs to be transcended, because he's already been to a couple Super Bowls and won an awful lot of football games. But every quarterback out there can be more efficient.
Yep.
And I think there's got to be a guy out there who will demand some accountability and earn it. Demand's probably the wrong word. Will earn the accountability, earn the respect from his quarterback, and vice versa. So together they can make that quarterback and the entire team understand, look, this is why we're doing the rubs. This is why we're going to rub and throw the ball across the middle. This is why we're going to run a shake route, and you got to anticipate when it is. And we're not trying to change you. We're trying to enhance what you do well.
Well, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No. Well, so, one of the guys you brought up there, Liam Cohen, and did a great job with Baker Mayfield the year before. It was probably Baker's best season. But worth noting that it was the only season he had with Baker, and then he became a head coach. And I forget who else you mentioned, but Ben Johnson also ended up as a head coach. So from an organizational perspective, is there a concern that one of these guys that you would hire, if they are that type, that is a one-and-done sort of situation for the Eagles, or do you just have to do what's best for next year and figure out the year after that year?
It's funny because personally I think Kevin Stefanski is going to get a head coaching job in this cycle anyway.
Right, yeah.
But I listened to the press conference with Howie and Nick this afternoon, and that's one of the things I kind of wanted to hear. And the clear message was it's win now. It's win this coming year, win a Super Bowl now. Now, at the very end, Howie qualified it, and I thought it was really smart. He said, wait a minute, Eagle fans, just so you understand, you can go all in and win now, but still plan for the future. And I thought that was a really good qualification by the general manager. But I would probably be more concerned whether I'm going to have a one-and-done guy. But it sounds like to me, and knowing the Eagles, they're going to look at a wide spectrum. They're going to look at the veteran play callers who've already been there and done that. They'll look at some of the young guys, and it seems like most of the young guys have roots with the L.A. Rams. Sean McVay, who's the next McVay. That's what's been out there. So I don't think they'll care as much as I would. I think they want to get the right guy that's the right fit for them, and worry about whether he's only a one-year guy later.
You mentioned Kevin Stefanski is the one that you that you think would be a good fit. Just to ask you about a couple of the other guys, and Mike McDaniel was reported by Diana Rossini is on their short list. He was interviewing for the Bucs OC job. Given what you've seen his offense look like and the Eagles personnel, just wanted to ask you about a couple of guys. Mike McDaniel, what do you think of him?
I think you could marry up what he wants to do with what Jalen does well. I'd be really curious as to Vic Fangio's take on what kind of culture the guy also brings in addition to what the scheme fit is.
Cliff Kingsbury.
Creative guy. has had an awful lot of high-level quarterbacks, knows how to deal with them, probably has an ability to get a lot out of Jalen.
And Brian Daboll.
I really like Daboll. I've seen a lot of his career. Think he's a creative guy. The one question in behind closed doors I would love to know is, you had the big year with Saquon and Daniel Jones. You beat Minnesota at Minnesota in the wild card. It looked like you had everything rolling, and then the next year Daniel Jones fell off a cliff somehow and then resurrected it in Indy. Why?
Right. Yeah. Yep. Well, Mike, we can't thank you. Go ahead.
David Shaw. You didn't ask me about David Shaw.
Oh, David Shaw.
No, go ahead.
Former Stanford coach.
Yeah, Go ahead.
Yeah, he had Andrew Luck. He had the current Eagles backup quarterback. He developed quarterbacks, and almost all of his offenses had a running component to it. Remember, he's the guy that followed Jim Harbaugh at Stanford.
Yep.
So he knows how to marry the run and pass game. He's a veteran guy. He is one of my favorite coaches of all time that I've gotten to know. And I think and even though he might not seem like a real top candidate right now, I would think he'd have to be.
You might not have insight on because there will be guys who have not called plays in the NFL or have not called plays anywhere who will be mentioned. Josh McCown has been the quarterback's coach under Kevin McConnell in Minnesota for a couple of years now. He was mentioned last cycle as a potential OC somewhere. Do you know anything about McCown and how he would be as an OC?
He's really kind of a cool story because he's a football guy through and through. He was coaching high school ball when he got done playing. He's under Kevin, who's one of the most creative guys out there. So he'd be a guy that if you're going to look at the young guys, he's one of the names along with like Nate Shihasa, however you pronounce that, Zach Robinson, Mike LaFleur. All three of those guys have L.A. Rams roots. People are talking about Charlie Weiss Jr., but I think McCown is an intriguing name who someday is going to be a coordinator, and beyond that, who knows?
All right. Well, Mike, your insight this season has been awesome. We wish the season ended differently, but that's not up to us. That's up to them. So you did a great job with us, and we look forward to talking to you around draft time and then having you back again next season. Thank you so much for today and for this season.
Appreciate it, Mayo.
I really appreciate you guys, and thank you so much.
Yep.
There
Thanks,
he is.
Mike.
Great, Mike Mayock.